Hi everyone, it's Niveen. I hope everyone is doing great and having a great Wednesday in this beautiful sunny day. The way I like it, right? And nothing beats California weather. So today's topic actually is going to be very juicy. I'm going to cover a lot of great information for you. So I would highlight your coffee, here we go, or your best drink, and just a paper and pen. But before we get started, let me know if you can see me, if you can hear me. For those that are live, if anyone is watching live, then let me know if you can see me or hear me. And I will be actually reading all the comments all the way to the end. I'm gonna do like a Q&A, all right? So let's get started with this topic. But before I get started, let me ask you a trivia question. The trivia question, okay, so you can see me. Great, I see the like. Thank you. All right, so the trivia question is, if you're buying a house as is, meaning that the seller is not gonna fix anything in the house, all right? And that means also that the buyer has to accept the house with its current condition. Do you have the right as a buyer to get out of the contract at any point? What do you think? Write your comments below and let me know, okay? So that's the three questions that's gonna lead into the topic. So today's topic is actually about contingencies. If you've ever heard that term before, what is a contingency and how can that help you as a buyer? What does it mean as what is contingency? Okay, so a contingency, well, first of all, let me just explain this, that whenever I get together with my buyers, I usually go through a buying process, okay? So I explain everything to the buyer from the beginning, and I explain everything to the buyer from the beginning to the end, okay, all the buying process. So one of the things that I always explain is contingencies. So a contingency is basically, it is a condition. A contingency is a condition that if it's not met, it allows the buyer to get out of the purchase contract without penalty. So there are three contingencies mainly that we talk about. The first contingency is called home inspection. Well, it's not only the home inspection, it's called the investigation contingency. So investigation contingency, it includes all the investigations. It includes home inspection, it includes the termite report, all the inspections and investigations that need to be done on the property, all right? So if you, as a buyer, waive your right in the contingency, that means that whatever results that's gonna come out of this home inspection, you will go through ahead with buying this house regardless of any results. Okay, so that's why it's very critical to deal with a professional real estate agent that knows what they're doing, and at the same time they keep all the contingencies in place. So the first one is home inspection contingency. So if the house is sold as is, and you as a buyer, you know that you're buying a house as is, that doesn't mean that you're waiving your right in the inspection report. That doesn't mean that you cannot come out of the contract if you don't like the outcome of the inspection report and the seller is not willing to fix it. Just a side note, let me just explain this. When there are things that need to be fixed, usually inspection report goes through the major things in the house. They go through foundation, roof, electrical, plumbing, all the major things, all right? So say for example, there are things that need to be fixed in the house. So we prepare something called request for repair. So it's a document, it's a form that the buyer's agent prepares and submits to the listing agent, all right? We call this a wish form. So it's nothing but a wish form, meaning that the seller may accept it or may not. The seller has the right not to reply to this report. Honestly, like they have the right not even to reply to it. So it's up to them. So say for example, the seller agrees to fix everything, okay? Or give a credit back to the buyer, which is the best way to do it, is to credit back the buyer a certain amount of money towards closing costs. All right, so when this happens, then great, we are fine. If the seller doesn't agree about this, then the buyer has the right to get out of the contract without penalty, all right? So this is the first contingency. The second contingency is called the appraisal contingency. So you probably heard the term appraisal gap. So let me explain that. So when you are financing a house, usually what happens is that you're going to buying the house, and the lender will finance the house for you, will basically give you a loan if the appraised value comes in at the purchase price or higher. Okay, let's take an example. So for example, we submit an offer at 800,000. and the appraised value comes in at 820, then we're good at 800. We're going to continue. We're going to open escrow at 800. We're not going to go higher. We're going to stay at 800. And the lender is happy. Everyone is happy. It's a great time for all. All right. But what if the appraised value comes in lower, comes in at 780? What happens then? So there are four scenarios. All right. The first one, that the seller either can come down with the selling price, with the listing price. So they accept the 780 and that we change the purchase price from 800 to 780. That's one way. The second is the buyer comes with the difference. He pays the difference. That's what is called appraisal gap. So an appraisal gap is when the buyer pays the difference in between the appraised value and the purchase price. Okay, so that's why it's really critical to keep the appraisal contingency in, because if you waive your right to the appraisal contingency, you are telling the seller that I'm gonna go ahead with the purchase. I'm gonna buy it with whatever price is gonna come at. Like, say for example, the house, the purchase price is 800 and it comes at 500. I mean, it's a crazy example, but imagine. So you have to pay out of pocket 300,000 because you waived your right in the appraisal contingency. So keeping the appraisal, is really critical. So this is what's called appraisal gap. Oh, I was going through the scenario. So the first one, the seller comes down with the purchase price. The second one, the buyer pays a difference. The third one, both they meet in the middle. Let's say, for example, the buyer pays 10,000 out of pocket, they add it to their down payment, and then the seller, they come down 10,000, right? Makes sense? The last one is it falls out of escrow. So they don't come to a term, they disagree, and we fall out of escrow, right? So the deal is gone. So these are the four scenarios that happens during an appraisal. So it's really critical, and it is against any broker's recommendation, honestly, to waive any contingency. Okay, so let's move to the third contingency. The last contingency is applied only. It's called a loan contingency. It's applied only when you are financing the house, not when you are paying cash. Because when you're paying cash, it's done. You don't need a lender, right? But if you are financing your house, this purchase, the lender is not going to pay you. The lender is not going to pay if you don't qualify for the loan. You are done the pre-approval prior, and that's why it's really critical to work with a good lender, because this good lender, they should have done their due diligence from the beginning. They should have asked you for all the paperwork, the documents, everything that needs to be done so they can pre-approve you. What happens that during escrow, that all the paperwork, all the process goes to somebody. His title is the underwriter. So the underwriter is the one that actually goes through all the documents again. And the relationship between your lender and the underwriter is critical, because the underwriter tells the lender what's missing information he needs, and then the lender goes back to you as a buyer and asks you for this paperwork. So the lender is working like as a liaison between you and the underwriter. Okay, so it's really, really critical, really important to work with a good lender. If you waive your right in the appraisal contingency, in the loan contingency, that means whether you finance or not, whether your lender accepts to give you the loan or not, then you are going to pay for the house. You are going with a purchase regardless. So if the purchase is for 800,000 and then the lender decides not to finance you, right? Not to give you the loan, guess what? You are paying 800,000 out of pocket. So that's why it's really, really, really critical, extremely important to keep the loan contingency in there. So these are contingencies. These are conditions, if you may want to call them conditions, that allow you as a buyer to come out of the contract with no penalty if they are not met. So again, the first one is the investigation contingency, and that includes a home inspection as well as a termite report or any inspection that you're looking to do on the house. And again, the home inspection usually is done by the buyer and the termite report is done by the seller. But in this seller's market, I mean, if the seller doesn't want to do that termite report, then it's up to you, right? It's up to you as a buyer to do it or not. So that's the first thing. And the second contingency is the appraisal contingency, and that protects you as a buyer from paying that appraisal gap. That's why it's really critical to keep it in there. And the last one, and the most important also, is the loan contingency. So working with a good lender that will pre-approve you from the beginning, but then again, that loan contingency only works for you if you are financing the house. In a cash deal, it doesn't work. You don't need a lender. So that protects you, and you are telling the seller that if I don't pass the underwriting stage, if I don't pass this, then I won't be able to purchase your property. All right. So these are the three contingencies. I get asked about them a lot. They are extremely important, and I just wanted to go through with them, just explaining them to you because they're really, really critical. So I hope this video helped. I know I'm gonna publish it, of course, on the channel. So feel free to ask me questions, reach out to me, write your questions below. I don't see anything right here. I don't see any comments below right now. Okay, so it's been 12 minutes right now. Very happy to be with you guys, and I hope to looking forward to your questions in the chat. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.